Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. It is a Monday edition of the show. Hope everybody had a great weekend and had a great Mother's Day as well. We are starting the week off with a bang. We will get into Bucs rookie minicamp, everything that we saw from Saturday's practice, but we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the big news, which I will get to in one moment. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR Scott Reynolds. And not too long before this podcast started today, the big news coming from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is that all-pro safety Antoine Winfield Jr. has signed an extension with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is with the Bucs for the next 4 years, playing at an elite level at safety. This was one of the biggest newsworthy stories all offseason long for the Bucs. He signs a 4-year deal worth $84.1 million and gets $45 million of that guaranteed. Scott, well-deserving of this deal is Antoine Winfield Jr. And I think Bucs fans can all rejoice. It's a happy day in Tampa Bay because Antoine Winfield Jr. is here for quite a while.
Yeah, Matt, this has been a long day, or a long time coming. It's a big day. When you look at Winfield's new deal, you're exactly right. 4 years, $84.1 million. I'll confirm with the team that what you see is what you get. Sometimes agents will put out numbers that are a little inflated, and we kind of find out a day or two later, well, that was the maximum value of the contract. But this is what it is. 4 years, yes. $84.1 million. That breaks out to $21.025 million AAV, which means average annual value. So that's how much the average per year amount of money Winfield's making. And it does include $45 million in guaranteed money, as you said. And I think most importantly, Matt, is it's not just making him the highest paid safety, which is what we thought all along. Yeah. But it's also making him the highest paid NFL defensive back, including cornerbacks. Right? So we have a list here of the top 10 highest paid defensive backs. The fellows in pewter are safeties. The other guys that are in the black font are corners. So you can see there's a bunch of cornerbacks that it's one thing to pass Derwin James's $19 million, but for the Buccaneers to kind of go above and beyond, Matt, and not just make him the highest paid safety, but then go all the way up to the top and not give him just a $20 million deal to make him the highest paid safety, but to go all the way up to $21.025 million ahead of Packers cornerback Jair Alexander. That's really showing Winfield, and I think all of the Buccaneers, the level of commitment that this team has to reward its elite players. And as you mentioned, Matt, when you're at an all-pro level, you are elite, and that's exactly what Winfield is.
Yeah, it's one thing to say that he's the highest paid safety in the NFL, but to say that he's the highest paid defensive back, whether it's a corner or a safety, I just think makes it sound that much better. And it's no surprise that the Bucs wanted to handsomely reward Antoine Winfield Jr. for what he does and what he means to this team. As Richard Taroka is saying, Jason Light was on the Pat McAfee show just the other day and said, he's well on his way to having a Hall of Fame career, and he's the best safety in the league, and he deserves to get paid like one. He didn't say he deserves to get paid like the best defensive back in the league, but I think obviously actions speak louder than words, and that contract obviously shows that they do view him that way as well. It's going to be nice to see year after year other big-name players get large contracts, whether it's a corner or a safety, and still might not be as big as what Antoine Winfield Jr. is getting. I also think it's awesome that, he really manifested this. He went back a year ago and posted a video, said, I want to be an all-pro safety, which he did. Right. And I want to be the highest paid safety in the league, which now he is. And, of course, defensive back. So, he's just an incredible player, an even better person. And It's almost a little surprising to see on this list that you have up here, Scott, that it's mostly all corners, and then obviously Derwin James at 8 and Minka Fitzpatrick at 10.
Yeah.
Because there's arguments to be made like how important safety is. I think it depends more towards the defense than
I think it's scheme specific. I think you're exactly right.
compared to cornerback, but there's no doubt with what Todd Bowles likes to run for the Bucs, how important safety is. And Antoine Winfield Jr. is not a guy that is going to just sit back, relax, and enjoy the money as it piles in. I think this is something that is even more motivating for him to have an even better season. And hey, he could still get the Pro Bowl, which he didn't get last year. So all pro. I mean, he wants it all. Super Bowl, all pro. Maybe Defensive Player of the Year could be in his future.
Not?
I think that's another goal that he can at least set for himself because, like you said, why not? He's one of the best players in the league, and he's so deserving of this great achievement.
Yeah, I think you're right. 2 takeaways. One, kind of piggybacking on what you've said. The Pro Bowl that he got snubbed on, right? So here's the thing. This is a very newsworthy, momentous occasion, right? He's not just the highest paid safety. He is the highest paid defensive back in the league. This is going to be blasted all over all the networks. It's all over X right now. Yeah. And so this is going to help him when it comes time for the Pro Bowl next year, right? Yeah. This is one of those milestone markers in his career that is going to give him the notoriety. As Jason Light said on the Pat McAfee show, sometimes it feels like Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers are in the witness protection program because they get overlooked by the national media on so many things, right? Well, this is one of those instances where this will help him get into the Pro Bowl next year and for years to come, as long as he's playing at that level, right? The other thing is, and this is something that that Bat W says here. Actually, I hit the wrong one here. Here it is. And he will be young enough to get a second big payday. That's right. Winfield, out of all the players on this list of top 10, and if you're listening to the audio podcast, it's Packers cornerback Jair Alexander at number 2 and Browns cornerback Denzel Ward, followed by Jalen Ramsey of Miami and Marlon Humphrey of the Ravens and Trey for Dallas, and then Marshawn Lattimore at number 7 in terms of cornerbacks. And then 8th on the list is Derwin James, followed by Jalen Johnson, who is the only player younger than Winfield. Winfield is 26 years old. Jalen Johnson is 25. So it's great to see him getting rewarded so early in his career with this, because he will have 4 years, and then he'll be, under the age of 30 by the time he'll be eligible for free agency again. And so he's got the opportunity, if he's still playing at a very high level, to cash in on yet another massive deal. And so I think this is a great reward for not just him, but also I think it bodes well for the Buccaneers as well, getting this guy locked up for the long term. So really momentous news, and I'm excited for Antoine.
How about the whole Bucs safety room? I mean, they got to be the happiest room in the NFL, because Jordan Whitehead just got a brand new fresh contract. Winfield got paid, and Tyke Smith is just entering the NFL. So, he's going to be in a good mood. You're going to have some motivated safeties this year for the Buccaneers. And then you add in like Christian Izien, who wants to prove that either, he can be great at safety, backing up Winfield, or playing in the slot. But between Whitehead, Winfield, and Tyke Smith, I mean, how could you not be thrilled about what Tampa Bay is doing at safety? Because they got a lot of guys that can really do important stuff for the defense this year.
And you know what, Matt? We talked about we mentioned Winfield probably getting more than Derwin James, and I kind of even talked about on a Peter Pulse episode last week. Are they going to give him $20 million, or are they going to give him a little bit less and use that? Well, you know what, Antoine, you play in Florida, right? And Winfield's going to be making a little bit less money than James, because he's actually going to be making more when you break down the 12% state income tax in California that Florida doesn't have, because there's no state income tax. Go Florida. But they didn't do that. They actually gave him the actual dollars that not just made him the highest paid safety, but the highest paid defensive back. And that kind of caught us off guard a little bit. We weren't necessarily expecting that. And so having said that, I think it bodes pretty well for what's going to happen to Tristan Wirfs. And we'll be talking about this at length in tomorrow's show. Wirfs' massive deal with the Bucs up next, because he is the next player in line to get that big contract extension. We've already seen that for the likes of Baker Mayfield and Antoine Winfield Jr. now, and Mike Evans. And so when it comes to big, massive contracts, Tristan Wirfs, who signed that 5th-year option with the team, already under contract for this year, but both sides want to come to an agreement on a long-term deal, and that's up next. So we'll see when that happens. And Matt, if Jason Light wanted to get Winfield's done prior to summer vacation, well, mission accomplished. He still has some time before summer vacation to get this deal done, although there is no deadline like there was for Winfield at mid-July.
Yeah, that was another funny thing from the Pat McAfee show, because Jason Light was like, I want to get this deal done before I go on my family vacation. He's going to Machu Picchu, which is in Peru. He said this all on the show, so I'm not revealing any new information. He's like, I don't want to be on the beach walking around with my kids like while on the phone. We're going hiking. I don't know if we can get like cell service there. July 15th was the date where Tristan Wirfs, there is more time, because worst case scenario, he's just playing on his 5th-year deal anyway, and then they can find an extension at some point. It could be a little bit similar to when the Bucs signed Vita Vea to an extension. I believe that happened like in October a couple of years ago when Vita Vea got his payday. So yeah, they can check the box next to Antoine Winfield Jr. Tristan Wirfs is up next. We can talk a lot about that on tomorrow's show, as we just had the graphic up a moment ago. I guess kind of the last question when it comes to Winfield and his contract, because there's that $21 million average annual value, is what does this mean for the overall cap for the Buccaneers? Because they got to sign the rookie class that's obviously just coming in, that they just drafted.
Right.
They have more flexibility than they did a year ago, but I feel like the next move is maybe a restructuring of some of the other contracts of the veterans that they already have.
Yeah, I think one player they're not going to touch is Chris Godwin.
Godwin, I don't think so, but they could always go back to Mike Evans. Well, yeah.
And Jamel Dean, they might take a look at that, but I think that depending on what happens with Winfield's deal and with Wirfs, and I've just got a text saying that they're still working through it in terms of what that 2024 cap number is going to be, what the base salary is going to be for Winfield. They've agreed to the overall value. Now it's structuring it. It's how many void years are they going to include, right? What is the ultimate structure of that deal going to look like? So it's still a work in progress. But they have agreed to terms on the total value of the deal, and so now it's just the details. It's the nitty gritty of that. But when it comes to Tristan Wirfs, I think between the amount of money they can create for the cap between Winfield and Wirfs, they're going to be able to sign their rookies. Now, you saw a couple of rookies get signed, and the reason why those players got signed, and I might have misspoken a little bit when I said that they don't have enough money or enough cap space to sign their rookie class. I kind of meant as a whole, because some of those guys, the 1st-round pick, Graham Barton, the 2nd-round pick, Chris Braswell, they're going to be making enough money to be counted in the top 51. Remember, in the offseason, the Bucs have 91 players under contract right now, including Metz, the
Lorenz Metz from Germany,
the international players. So they get a roster exemption for him. But so there's 91 players under contract. Only the top 51 salaries count. So you go down the list from the most expensive and all the way down, and once you get to 51, that stops. So when you sign players like Bucky Irving and Elijah Klein, those players fall below the 51 in terms of what they're going to make and what their cap hit's going to be this year.
Correct.
So they still can technically sign like Devin Culp and a couple of these other players, but they're going to need some space to get those rookies, the top ones, under contract, because their contracts will be counted among the top 51. But I think Winfield, who was making $17.123 million, and Wirfs, who was making just over $18 million, you're going to see them be able to create millions of cap space dollars for both of those deals, to where they'll have enough, not just for the rookie class, but also for in-season additions that they need to make, either because somebody pops up on the radar that they want to add, or if there's injuries that they need to sign a replacement. player.
Yeah, the Bucs have always done a great job of like getting the big contract to a player, but then also setting themselves up to be fine season by season in terms of like cap hit, how much it's going to affect the team. Like Levante David's contracts have always been great, where Levante gets paid, but it costs like $3 million on the salary cap for the
Right.
Buccaneers, and
Yeah.
Levante's still able to get his money, and the Bucs can go out and sign more free agents or do everything with the rookie class, like you just explained. So it's certainly a fair question and good reason for Bucs fans to think about it and wonder about it. But we can assure you it's not going to tie up the Bucs too much.
Yeah, it's not. So we have some extra big news. We thought that our big news was going to be the big news today, but it turns out it's Winfield who has the big news. And that's great because that's the kind of news we like to report on the show and break down and analyze and share with you, Pewter people out there. But the big news that we were kind of anticipating today was thanks to you all, we finally hit 14,000 subscribers for Pewter Report TV's YouTube channel. So thank you, Pewter people. You guys are awesome. And we just hit that within the last hour, too. So this is some breaking news. And we've been watching this for a while, and we were sure we were going to hit it before training camp. We were shooting for around the draft, and we got so darn close, and you guys pushed us over the edge today. So we greatly appreciate that, and that's awesome. And so having said that, I think probably the best way that we can thank you guys is maybe to do a roll call, Matt, since it's Monday.
That's right. I think that's a fantastic idea, Scott. So it is 4:20. We're on time. So that means it's time for roll call. Where are you at, Pewter people? And again, thank you to everybody for 14,000. The Chris Godwin number. We're at 14,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. So if you're new to the Pewter Report podcast, because we've just added some more subscribers, we do this every Monday show where one of us starts talking about a Bucs topic on Monday because we love interacting with everybody as much as we can. If you want to put in the chat, which you guys are already starting to do, where you're watching the show from, we'll put it up on the screen and we'll get to everybody and maybe give a couple of personal shout outs after. So I'm going to talk about the Buccaneers today while Scott puts up the names on the screen. So Scott, they're already rocking and rolling if you want to get to it. And
let's do it.
What I'm going to talk about is the schedule that's coming up. So obviously the big announcement, there's been a lot of big announcements today. We're at 14K. Yeah. Antoine Winfield Jr. has expanded his bank account by a lot. And of course, the schedule is going to be announced on Wednesday. So we got the announcement to the announcement for the Bucs and the rest of the NFL. We've already gotten a couple of little teasers, spoilers, things like that. The Bucs did put out a video earlier where it very much alluded to the fact that their preseason games are going to be against the Dolphins, Jaguars, and Vikings, who they opened up the season against last year. Not the most shocking thing. Obviously, they play the Dolphins every year because they're in the state of Florida. The Jaguars, it makes a ton of sense because they're also in the state of Florida. And, Minnesota, sometimes they just have a random game there. So hopefully the Bucs will get a joint training camp practice with either Miami or Jacksonville or potentially Minnesota because, of course, last year they did it with the Jets. But in years past, they've done it with the Dolphins before. They've done it with Tennessee. So we'll see what happens there. Now, the opponents for the regular season, obviously we know they play the NFC South. They're division rivals. They also play at home the Ravens, Broncos, Raiders, Eagles, 49ers, and Commanders. And on the road, they play the Cowboys, Lions, Chiefs, Chargers, and the New York Giants. So there are some big-time teams. Obviously, both teams that played in the Super Bowl last year with the Chiefs and the 49ers. Yeah. The Eagles, who they played twice last year. The Lions, who they played twice last year. There are some good opportunities, and especially with the Atlanta Falcons also, making a big move this free agency with Kirk Cousins. This is a really good opportunity for the Bucs to have a fair amount of primetime games this year. Bailey Adams had a great article that came out today, and he had an article that also came out recently where he talked about the most likely primetime games, and he mentioned the Falcons, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys. I would also throw the Chargers on that list as well, because Harbaugh gets a lot of eyes on the product. And it's also very interesting that the Bucs play both Harbaugh brothers this year. I find that very interesting. So I think the Bucs could end up having, 5 primetime games this year. Anytime it's Patrick Mahomes, you get that rematch of Bucs Chiefs, the one Super Bowl that Patrick Mahomes has not won. I think that's definitely a great storyline. Who's running the NFC South between the Bucs and Falcons? That's a great storyline. Bucs, can they avenge their loss to the Detroit Lions? Is this the year that they can finally pull it off? I think that's big as well. Cowboys always bring some news. So I want to give a shout out to Bailey Adams, because he attempted to.
That's cool. It's a mock schedule. I've never seen that before.
He did a mock Bucs schedule. So week 1, Carolina. Week 2 against Los Angeles. Week 3 against Philly. Week 4, Denver. He goes all the way through. But this is really a long way of me saying I think we're going to get at least 5 primetime games for the Buccaneers this year. And yes, part of it is because of the opponent, but also I think the Bucs are deserving of being on national television. Yeah. Like, they stayed relevant after Tom Brady, retired. Did. Baker Mayfield he doesn't go out for the attention seeking, but people talk about Baker Mayfield still. He is a marketable product for not just the Bucs, but for the NFL. The Bucs are a good team. They're a good team. They deserve to be displayed on national television. So I'm hoping they get 4 or 5 games this year, whether it's Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, Wednesday, or whenever the hell they play. So that's what I'm hoping for. I
just wonder if the Bucs are going to be on Thanksgiving, because when you look at it, the 2 anchor teams on Thanksgiving that host Thanksgiving games going back decades, Detroit and Dallas, the Buccaneers have away games at both of those teams, both of those cities. So there's double the opportunity there. Then you factor in that primetime game on Thursday night on Thanksgiving that any team can host, right? So the Buccaneers, they could be hosting it. They could be the away team for that particular game as well. So as you said, one of those primetime games may be on not a Sunday night or a Monday night. It may be on Thursday night, but it may be on Thanksgiving.
That would be kind of, that'd be funny if it's like, hey, they avoided the Cowboys and Lions on Thanksgiving, but they're actually playing Thanksgiving night against the Broncos. Or,
right, exactly.
The Chargers or whatever.
It's interesting. And Tampa Bay has had one primetime game against the Cowboys, and Tony Romo had a day, 5 touchdowns, and they destroyed the Buccaneers. Tampa Bay actually was, I think it was 2006. Tampa Bay was up 7-0, a Mike Allstott touchdown, and then it was off to the races, like 38-3 was the final after that. So 38-10, I think, was the final score. Romo had a day against Monty Kiffin's defense. Bruce Gradkowski was the quarterback for the Buccaneers. They had some injuries at the quarterback position. So we'll see if Tampa Bay can show up on Thursday night. They'll have a Thursday night game. I think most teams do, right? That's what the league does. And we'll see if one of those is on Thanksgiving. So wanted to give a tremendous shout out to a lot of Pewter people that are coming in, not just from around the country, but we had a lot of international people today. So let's give a couple shout outs here real quick here. We'll get to a super chat. Jack M. Carico from Washington, D.C. It's my old native area there. Penn Wallace from Charleston, South Carolina. We got a couple of Floridians here. Christopher Cole from Bartow, Florida.
Cool.
And David Melnick from Alligator Point. We've got JB from San Diego, California, out there on the left coast. And that's not the only other. Let's see. Here we have another Floridian, Kathy Gillespie. Congrats, guys, coming at you from good old Zephyr Hills. But we have so many folks today from around the world. We've got Callum Shaw from Liverpool.
Nice.
England. We've got Arnoud Altmans from Bentveld, the Netherlands. I hope I'm saying that correctly. We've got Chris Pope from Invercargill, New Zealand.
That's awesome.
As well as Tobias Stark. You deserve it. Congrats from Munich, Germany. And last but not least, Matt Plummer from London, Ontario. Love my Bucs. And we love you and all of you awesome Pewter people. And especially our super chatters. And we've got Brandon Kubler here with the $9.99 super chats. Have you talked with Liam about the use of 4 wide receiver sets? Can you imagine Evans and Palmer on the outside with Godwin and McMillan on the inside? Of course, that is if the offensive line upgrades work out. I think that's something we're going to see. We'll see some 4 wide receiver sets, but basically a lot of what we saw at the rookie minicamp was a lot of those 3-by-1 sets where you have 3 receivers on one side, 1 tight end on the other, or sometimes it was a running back who got flexed out, right? So they like to do a lot of bunch formation with those receivers. I think there are going to be some that will have some of those formations. There will be 4 wide receivers, and that quartet that you mentioned with the big play guys, Palmer and Evans on the outside and Godwin and McMillan on the inside, that could be something that we see in the works as OTAs and training camp roll on.
Yeah, we'll see some 4 wide receiver sets. It's not like they play 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 100% of the time. So we'll see different looks. I don't think it's going to be necessarily the bread and butter of what Tampa Bay does. But hey, if Trey Palmer can prove that he's a legit threat on the outside or wherever they decide to move him, and there's some more big plays in store for him, like when he had that big touchdown against the Eagles in the playoffs. The Bucs actually posted it before, so I had it on my mind a little bit more. They had it on their on their Twitter account. If Trey Palmer can show that he's really going to push Jalen McMillan for wide receiver 3, then he could kind of intrigue the Bucs to play a little bit more with him. But I think he kind of said it better last week, where it would be great for the Bucs if it got to the point where McMillan and Trey Palmer are essentially interchangeable, and one guy can play the 3rd wide receiver and not really miss a beat. But definitely something to consider, and it'll be fun to see the different looks and formations and just things that are a little bit different in this offense that we didn't see last year. I think it'll be fun for everyone.
Yep. A little bit of breaking news. Bucs just signed Devin Culp, their 7th round draft pick. So he is signed and under contract. And so there's that. Speaking of signings, if you were going to, say, go to your favorite, bodega, and you were to, to draft, sign, trade for any type of energy drink, Matthew, what would you pick? What would be your
there's no question about it. I am going with Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. And the reason why I agreed to this sign and trade, or this deal where I'm handing over my money to get the best Celsius energy drink around, is because the flavors are so fantastic, especially their 5 flavors. Doesn't matter if it's the Galaxy, the Astro, or the Cosmic. My personal favorite is the Arctic Vibe. They're all delicious, wonderful, fantastic drinks. They're a great substitute for coffee. They can really get your day going by starting it out with a Celsius energy drink. So if you need to know where to find Celsius, go to the Celsius store locator, punch in your address, and it'll tell you the closest place where you can pick one up. Could be your Walmart or a 7-Eleven. Might just be your bodega. And once you keep going to your bodega, you love Celsius. You can start buying in bulk over on Amazon. Click on the subscribe and save. Everyone's on Amazon anyway, so just hop on over to Celsius. Get that variety pack, because variety is the spice of life. You can have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. You're in charge. You're the captain. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of the Pewter Report podcast.
Yeah, we've got a couple of super chats here. You want to roll through some of these before we get into our Bucs rookie minicamp coverage from Sunday or Saturday?
Yes, Sap Doctor, Sap Drive. Anyway, Sap with the $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Says, what do you think our chances are of signing a veteran tight end? If not, are you comfortable with Otten, Payne Durham, Kieft, and Culp?
Am I comfortable, or are the Bucs comfortable? I think the Bucs are comfortable right now with those particular players.
Idea to separate it,
yeah. But I'm of the opinion that Greg Alma put something out. It was interesting on X this morning. He was looking at the Rams, I want to say in 2022, that season, The Rams went with 7 wide receivers and only 2 tight ends on their roster that year. And we know that the Rams offense incorporates a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. That's what Liam Cohen's going to run. And having said that, I don't think it's going to be a 7-2 split. I do see the Buccaneers going with 6 wide receivers on their final 53-man roster and probably 3 tight ends. That's my guess as it stands right now. I don't think they're going to keep 4 like they did last year, unless 2 of those guys are just dominant special teams players. And O'Keefe was a pretty good special teams player last year for the Bucs. We'll see how it shakes out this year. So my guess is, instead of 5 and 4, 5 receivers, 4 tight ends, it's going to be 6 and 3, 6 receivers, 3 tight ends. And the reason for that is because there's not going to be nearly as many 2 tight end sets this season. So you're only going to be playing 1 tight end at a time, more than likely. And therefore, you're probably you're going to have maybe 1 or 2 guys on the practice squad. So you'll have a couple more tight ends in reserve. But I think on the roster, it's just going to be 3. I think Tampa Bay has invested some draft picks in these players. I think they certainly feel comfortable with Cade Otton. Yeah. They're going to see how Payne Durham progresses this year. It's a big training camp for O'Keefe. He could be the odd man out. He's known as the blocking tight end. He's got to get better as a blocker. I mean, if that's what you're going to do, you better be a dominant blocker, and he's not that right now. And then Culp, I think, he's the shiny new toy, and he probably will stick over O'Keefe this year if he looks like the shiny new toy, which means he shows up to speed, he makes some plays, he's as good as advertised, and he brings it a little bit of a different dimension. And I think one of the interesting things, Matt, that we learned over the weekend was that he's already up to 245, 246 pounds, not the 231 that he weighed in at the combine, not the 235 that he played his final season at Washington. So he's already on his way to increasing his likelihood of sticking around by adding some weight and getting up to 245. Not the biggest guy in the world, but when you have that 4.47 speed, that's your calling card. You certainly look good running around, moving around and catching the ball over the weekend.
Yeah, I preferably would like to have the Bucs bring in a veteran tight end, but as you said, the Bucs feel fine with it, and I do see their point. Like, Cade Otton and O'Keefe are going into their 3rd year. They are still young players, but they have experience, especially with Cade Otton. And in years past, the veteran that they brought in was like Kyle Rudolph, who hardly played and at times was just more of like a camp or a roster body than he was like an actual player, even though he may have caught a late touchdown from Tom Brady. Yeah. And Cam Brady was already on the team. He had been there for a while. Because there's going to be less of an emphasis on the tight end, I don't necessarily know how many more tight ends you want to bring in, because you're obviously not cutting Cade Otton. It would be very weird to cut a second-year player in Payne Durham or a guy you just drafted, even though he is a 7th-round pick.
Right.
What veteran right now is going to come in and push one of those guys like for their roster spot where they end up on the practice squad? I don't really see it. So it's really just a veteran versus O'Keefe. Yeah. And at that point, you're probably better off just staying with O'Keefe. So I don't love the room, but they're not going to be exposed too much, so it's fine. I don't see them bringing in a veteran tight end.
Yeah, I agree. And really, Kyle Rudolph, it's kind of a little bit of a recency bias, but as he got older, Cam Brate started to kind of slow down. It wasn't that dynamic player. Obviously, Rob Gronkowski, right? He was still the real deal, but still, he was young. He's like 30, 31 years old at the time. So to me, I think that's a position that unless they need somebody, they have to go out and sign somebody. Let's say there's an injury to Cade Otton or something like that. But otherwise, I don't see them addressing it. I really don't. Khalif Young here with a $4.99 super chat. Congrats on the 14,000. Thank you. Appreciate that. What do you guys think about Zach Mathis? Zach Mathis was a tryout player who came in from North Dakota State, wasn't signed. And to be perfectly frank with you, I didn't spend a whole bunch of time studying everybody. But he is from Tampa, a bigger guy at 6'7". And you know what? I'm trying to remember. I don't know that he was on. Maybe he was a tryout player, or maybe they talked about bringing him in. But he's a big receiver from Tampa. played North Dakota State. They have had a couple of Bison players that they've been interested in the years past. We'll see what happens. I think that the wide receiver to maybe kind of keep an eye on when you look at the new guys, obviously with McMillan, he's the given, he's the third round pick. But if you're looking for maybe kind of like a sleeper, one of the guys that looked really, really athletic and agile was what was that guy's name? He was number 9, Johnson for the Bucs.
Cephas?
Cameron
Cephas
Johnson.
Cameron
Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Barton College, 5'10", 170, a little bit bigger than Devin Tompkins. We'll see what happens, but he looked really athletic. So that might be a name to watch. Again, even
it's
with 6
tough for the wide receiver room.
It is.
Yeah.
Even with 6 wide receivers, Matt, let's go down them. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer. You're already at 4, okay?
Yeah.
Raheem Jarrett, we've talked about him. Now you're at 5. Is it Devin Tompkins for 6? Is the Cephas Johnson, the big 6'4" receiver? Does he make an impact? Does the light bulb come on for him? What about Ryan Miller? He had some flashes, stayed on the practice squad all year. What about the newcomers? We'll see. But this is going to be a harder 53-man roster to crack than in years past because they've hit on so many of these draft classes where they don't have to supplement with undrafted free agents.
And every year, there's like maybe 1 or 2 positions where you can kind of find your way onto a roster because that position is a little bit weaker. And wide receiver, the past couple of years, that was the case, but it's just not. It's just not this year. Yeah, thanks to Callum Shaw for this $4.99 super chat. We appreciate you, our international fan. Why does the Bucs run game always suck? Bucs have had maybe 1 year of reliable running. Is it scheme or offensive line desire? And love the Elijah Klein article today.
Thank you. I think the reason for that is because in Bruce Arians' offense, he was the quarterback whisperer. His offensive play caller was a quarterback in Byron Leftwich for years, a first-round draft pick. Then you have Tom Brady, right? I mean, and not just that, but you had Jameis Winston. The strength of this team is the passing game. We can't deny that. With Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, these are the 2 best wide receivers in Bucs history. They're both 1,000-yard guys. One's a Hall of Famer. One, if he keeps going and gets a new contract, he might be a Bucs Ring of Honor guy in Godwin. We'll see. But this team has played to its strength, which is the passing game. But even like Kansas City, who has the best quarterback in the league, and Patrick Mahomes, they still have an effective running game. And Tampa Bay just simply hasn't had that. So it's not like these things have to be, different from each other.
Right.
You can coexist. You can have a top-ranked passing attack.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be at the complete different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be at the expense of the running game. You're exactly right. But so I think that you look at Harold Goodwin, who was the run game coordinator, and you look at Joe Gilbert, the former offensive line coach for the Bucs. Both of those guys, their emphasis was in terms of pass protection, and that was the strength. Kind of like the tight end room with John Van Dam. He was good incorporating the tight ends in the passing game when it came to run blocking and technique. That's why they brought in Justin Peele. So I think with this new offensive line coach, Kevin Carberry, and I get a chance to really watch him. Bailey Adams was out there on Saturday for the practice too. And Kevin Carberry was really interesting to kind of watch. And sometimes it depends on where these particular groups are practicing in terms of our relation as being able to watch them. The offensive line was up close and personal. That's Kevin Carberry right there, who kind of looks like a really bigger offensive line version of Brian Greasy. It's a little uncanny in terms of
I can see that for sure.
Their appearance, like this could be Brian Greasy's younger brother, but bigger.
Yeah.
But very technical guy, very hands-on, very positive guy. And he was working a lot with the interior offensive line. And then Pacucci, the other offensive line coach, was working with the tackles. Now, doesn't necessarily mean that that'll always be the case, but we always saw Harold Goodwin working with the interior offensive lineman and Joe Gilbert working with the tackle. So we saw Carberry spend a lot of time with Graham Barton, a lot of time with Elijah Klein on both Saturday and Friday's practice. And I think that we also saw Klein play mostly right guard, which was kind of interesting too, and that kind of leads us into our next super chat here.
Yeah, thanks to Meets McGee for this $5 super chat, who says, have you answered this question? In the videos, Elijah Klein has been practicing at right guard. Is that where they are going to start him off? Well, he played right guard at UTEP. So we did talk about this a little bit on Friday's show, where all these rookies are coming in. You kind of want to just get them comfortable first. You want them to just get an understanding of the surroundings. You're playing for an NFL team. You're wearing the NFL helmets and jerseys and everything like that. The Bucs cross-train a lot of their guys. We talked about it at safety and at corner. They do it on the offensive line to a degree as well. And yes, they probably will play Elijah Klein at left guard at some point, but it's literally the first day. Just let him get his feet wet. Let him get comfortable. I'm sure at some point we'll see him playing on the left guard. We'll be sure to identify it on social media when and if it happens. But we all know that, at least for the time being, Cody Mauch is going to be the starting right guard, unless they feel he's better at left guard, but probably keep him at right guard. We know that there's a vacancy at left guard, and Elijah Klein is going to play in that mix of guys competing to be the starter in that spot. So I think it's more of just, hey, he's here. Let's let him know what he's used to already doing, and then when we need to move him around, we'll get to it. But there's still a very, very long way to go before the nitty-gritty of things really start popping up. So kind of just, this is syllabus week for all the rookies, and trying to make them as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, and there is some school of thought maybe of moving Cody Mauch to left guard, where it should be an okay transition there. In other words, if Elijah Klein looks like he is going to be in the mix, we've always kind of said, all right, where they got to find a left guard, right? That's what they're trying to find, the left guard. Well, if Mauch shows the ability and the flexibility to move to left guard because he played left tackle in college, then it might be a situation where you're looking to fill that right guard spot. So whether it's Sua Opeta, whether it's Elijah Klein, whether it's Ben Bredesen, it might be left or right guard, depending on where Cody Mauch ends up playing. And like you said, it's all about comfortability. So we've seen this team with some mixed results, Matt. Bring in Luke Gedeke and move him from right tackle to left guard, right? Right tackle at Central Michigan, left guard in the NFL. Did not go so well. Cody Mauch, I wonder, would he have been better going from left tackle in college to left guard? But the reason why they moved him to right guard was because of the fact that you had, Matt Filer, who was the veteran guy. He was in there at left guard as a free agent acquisition. And so the open spot ended up being where Shaq Mason was, and that was the right guard.
Yeah, so the Bucs are going to mix and match and move things around. And it kind of goes back to the other super chat we had not too long ago about why the run game wasn't good. Well, they had to move around so many guys because of retirements and injuries and all those things. So they're going to experiment with a couple different looks and formations and personnel of where people are. And, this is the time of year to do it. So, Klein will start at right guard. I'm sure we'll see him at left guard. Who knows? At this point, after Robert Hainsey, who's going to be the emergency center for the Buccaneers? There's going to be a lot of different looks from now until the beginning of the season, which if Chiefs-Ravens is September 5th, and that's a Thursday night, that means, the beginning of the season is a couple days after that.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Another name that we didn't really talk about too much during the show on Friday, and we had a great turnout. Thank you so much for watching us on a Friday afternoon, which is not our usual time. Usually we're Monday through Thursday at 4 o'clock Eastern time. However, there will be a change. It's not going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow's show will be at 4 o'clock, but we will have the schedule analysis show, and that's going to be coming out 8 o'clock. So that's going to be our Wednesday podcast. The NFL schedule will drop at 8 o'clock. There's probably going to be some leaks during the day, so we might have some of that news earlier. Just stay tuned to Pewter Report and pewterreport.com. But we will have a full breakdown of the Bucs schedule at 8 o'clock as it's revealed. So join us in prime time on Wednesday for a special 8 o'clock show.
Yeah, pumped for that one. The schedule release episode is always a fun one, and sometimes we get a bit of a different audience when we're in prime time. But yeah, that's That's where you can find us. And then we can all start making our plans and trips for Bucs road games and when they're playing and what time and who they're against. So always a fun show.
One of the guys that really stood out to us during the rookie minicamp was Chris Braswell, who was I'll tell you what, the first play in 11-on-11, it's supposed to be non-contact, right? It's supposed to be, kind of like patty cake or two-hand touch a little bit.
Right.
So Tanner Tala, the tight end who was on the practice squad last year for the Buccaneers, he lines up, and he's lined up tight in line, and Chris Braswell just gives this guy like a two-handed shove, and just like this, just boom, and just stood him straight up and rocked him back. And so that was one of those instances where, you're like, wow, okay, this guy's power, when they talk about speed to power, is just the real deal. I mean, it was as good as advertised. We'll see more from Braswell when the pads come on, but he looked really good going through the bag drills, the agility, the get off and all that. So that was pretty exciting to see just little instances, little glimpses of what Chris Braswell can do from a power perspective. Tanner Tell is not a small guy, 6'6", about 255. So that was pretty exciting to see. What else is exciting is we're going to be bringing on Christopher Lugo, one of our newest Pewter Report ad partners, and also my primary care physician. And I'm excited to introduce our audience of Pewter people, now over 14,000 strong, to Christopher Lugo. How you doing, Chris?
Gentlemen, good afternoon. That's a good glamour shot of me. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done.
Chris, I've been pretty transparent with our audience in terms of going into my 50s. I'm 52, and I, as I disclosed with you, I did testosterone treatments at another company, and certainly felt the effects. It worked. It's legitimate, right, in terms of vitality, energy, all of those things from a health benefit standpoint. It was pretty cost prohibitive. And that's why I stopped. And boy, once I stopped, I really felt it. I felt like I had aged, like I had just jumped ahead and hit fast forward in the age department. And then I've been under the care for you for the last couple of months, really, I guess since now. And with regards to the testosterone treatments, they work, they're effective, and they're really affordable too, which was kind of a shocker to me. But I wanted just to kind of set the stage for you.
I can change that.
Well, no, I'm just saying that it's very affordable, and that's the beauty of going to Bay Area Modern Medical is the affordability of it and the personalized care that you offer.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who do the whole subscription thing. Those places are mostly, I'll tell you, 99% are run by business owners. They're businessmen. I will tell you the majority of them are men, actually. They're all about turning a profit. I'm all about trying to do the right thing. So it is cheaper than most people think it is. I don't do subscription based. I think that's a little hokey pokey and not the right thing to do. Yeah. That's me personally, but.
In terms of the testosterone, can you just give some of those the clinical ways that it can help? And I think what we're seeing in maybe today's culture, maybe it's diet, maybe it's lack of exercise, maybe it's just a generational, shift as we as human beings, kind of continue to evolve a little bit. But it seems like old men used to be the guys that were having the lower testosterone. Now it's really creeping down into men in their 40s, into their 30s, in terms of those low testosterone numbers. Is that valid?
Yeah. These little computers keep us up all night long, and that's why we're not sleeping really well. That's why we're not making good testosterone. That's beside the point. Testosterone. I'm the old school guy, well, because we're the same age.
Yeah.
I was taught back in the day, early 2000s, 2005, 2007, that you had to be at a certain range. You had to be below that certain range. And I still get people coming to me wanting to talk about total testosterone. And I say, that is antiquated. That's 1990s stuff. It's about free testosterone. And then like one of my Army buddies was just hitting me up just now. And he's asking me, hey, my number's good. I'm like, it's not about numbers. It's about symptoms, mood, cognitive function, less enjoyment of life, not recovering from workouts, not as good as they used to be. Hey, my erections aren't as strong. My libido is not there for men. Libido for women also. And these go for women also. This is not just men. This is also includes women. I'll tell you, I probably have more women in my practice now than men because of my weight loss, fat loss. But testosterone is about symptoms. We are resolving symptoms. I don't care about numbers so much.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what it comes down. And so when we're using the compounded testosterone, so I use Wells Pharmacy's Tri-Test. It's the only one around who's got 3 different testosterones in one vial. Everyone wants to use Cypionate. You don't get that up and down feeling with it. This is such a much better product for guys. And you don't need to be doing a crazy amount. 150 milligrams, some guys at 200 milligrams, but nice, even keeled. You're not going to get away feeling from it.
Yeah, it certainly works for me for sure. Tell people about the concierge care real quick. And of course, they can find you on BAMM.com.
Correct. So I do offer concierge also, which means you get 24/7 access to me. You get my personal cell phone number, day, night, 24/7. You get that unlimited access to me. You get unlimited visits with me. Meds are different. If you're on testosterone replacement therapy, that's going to cost you a little extra, $95 for a vial. That's pretty cheap.
That's incredibly cheap compared to what
some people like to have that unlimited access to somebody day or night, which it happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's
really
pretty affordable. It's not that expensive.
Yeah, it's really unprecedented in this day and age to get a physician's cell phone number, and if you have any type of medical
I don't think I've
questions or
ever had
that. I cannot recommend Christopher Lugo enough, not just for anti-aging or weight loss, whatever, but also for primary care. And then the last thing I will mention, Chris, is you get to know your patients. I don't think we've had a visit under 1 hour in terms of our time. And it goes by like this because you're educating your patients, including myself. And it's not just about going through all the lab numbers. It's the diet, the exercise, the sleep, the full shebang.
It's the Occam's razor is the simplest answer. I'll ask about your wife right now. How is she doing? Like, to me, that's important to know you, because I came from that insurance model where, hey, your 5 minutes is up. I'm going to go and grab the door handle and walk out like, hey, do you need a prescription? I don't like doing that. I want to know what makes you tick, what makes Scott Reynolds tick. What can I do to help Scott Reynolds the next level to help him achieve that goal? That's why I like this model. Some people don't understand, well, you don't take insurance. I'm like, yeah, but insurance impedes everything we're doing. You're taking your whole day off from work because of that. So getting to know the patient is what we used to do way back in the day.
Yeah.
Today, you're a Baycare number. You're a Tampa General number today. Yeah. You're an Advent Health number. That's all you are, and that's all you'll ever be with those platforms. I'm hoping that the pendulum swings back the other way to more people get back to the roots, but it's a different model. I agree, but some people get it, some people don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris, I noticed some sports memorabilia back there. It looks like a Lightning helmet and a Gators helmet. Just curious, like how big of a Tampa Bay sports fan you are, and at the Bucs as well. Obviously, this is a Bucs podcast.
So I'm a Florida graduate. I see the Seminoles above your head. So that helmet right there is actually the signature. It's a signed helmet when the old ball coach was there, his last year there.
Very cool.
And then the other one is Julian Brisebois got me that helmet right there. So cool. It's a signed helmet with the Lightning. I forgot what year that was. Probably, I think when he was assistant GM, actually. Okay. Not when he was a coach. But awesome. Yeah, I'm a big Lightning fan.
Yeah, go Bulls. Yeah, and go Bucs, and go Gators for you.
And so, hey, by the way, I wrote a little note.
Yeah.
Colin Shaw, I agree with you. The running game sucks.
Hey, they put a huge emphasis this offseason and this year on improving that run game. So I think a lot of people are singing the same praises that you are, and Callum as well. That
it's got to be balanced.
It has to. If they want to be an elite team, especially on offense, in today's NFL where it's all about the offense. We know you love defense, Scott.
That's right, yeah.
But they can't just be one-dimensional, where at times it felt like it was last year.
Yeah, you got to run the rock. You got to pound the rock. You got to keep them guessing, because if not, they're going to know you're going to throw it every single time. And then Baker Mayfield is not going to be that as effective when they know, hey, he's got to throw.
That's right.
When you got that other offense where you're just shoving the ball down their throat, and you don't know what's going to come at you. And our running game has not been sexy at all for the past 5-7 years.
No doubt. And hopefully that changes. I think Rashad White has the 1,000-yard potential right in him. We saw it, 990 yards. And Bucky Irving is pretty exciting running back. I think they might have a solid 1-2 punch now. Of course,
but it's also that front line that's got a block, right?
Yeah, that's right.
No holes are being opened up. It's kind of hard to run through it.
You got it. Exactly. Christopher Lugo, we appreciate you joining us. We'll have you on again as the weeks and months roll on towards training camp. And huge Tampa Bay fan here, not just with the Buccaneers, but also the Lightning as well. So
yeah, I'm born and raised in Tampa, so I bleed orange, unfortunately.
There you go. Christopher Lugo, we appreciate your time so much. Thanks for joining the Pewter Report podcast. Yep.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
And with Christopher Lugo, you can go check out the website, BAMMC.com. Highly recommend it. He is one of the most personable people you met. I count him as a friend, not just my physician, and also treats my wife, Ashley, as well. So it's not just myself. Ashley is also a patient at Christopher Lugo, and I found out about Christopher Lugo from our good friend, JP Peterson, who is been going to Christopher Lugo for several years. So office probably about 10 minutes south of Raymond James Stadium. So conveniently located, whether you live in St. Petersburg or you live in Tampa, it's just across the bridge or just down kind of in the South Tampa area, Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Matt, we've had a big show. We've got another big show tomorrow, and it's probably going to be involving another big Buccaneer and a future big Buccaneer signing. We're talking about Tristan Wirfs. He's the next massive deal that is up with the Buccaneers next. He's the next in line to get that. We're going to be spending tomorrow talking about that at 4 o'clock. And then, of course, as we mentioned, 8 o'clock on schedule release day, which is Wednesday, breaking down the Bucs schedule live as it breaks out. So we're excited to talk to you about that. And I tell you, this week has already started off with the bang, Matt, as you kicked off the show with Antoine Winfield Jr.'s new deal. Happy contract day, Antoine.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. Like, Mondays typically aren't the best start of a new work week. We try to attack that with roll call every Monday, but it helps a lot more when literally your best player on defense signs a deal saying that he's going to be with the Bucs for the next 4 years. So we got a great lineup of shows coming up this week. Today has already been a lot of fun. Anytime we get to talk about Tristan Wirfs, one of the most fun-loving players on the Buccaneers, that's always great. Schedule. We know who we're playing, but there is still the element of surprise of when they're playing, how many primetime games they get.
When that
and then who knows?
Is.
Yeah, exactly. And I imagine we'll probably have like an Antoine Winfield Jr. press conference sometime soon. So
I did check with the Buccaneers. It's not going to be this week. I do know that. Jason Light's going to be out of town from Wednesday through the weekend, so getting a little bit of early vacation time there before OTAs begin. No OTAs this week, but next Tuesday will be a first open OTA, so we'll be out there checking that out as well, and then we'll have, I believe, 3 or 4 straight OTA.
Yeah, practices. They do. One's open to the media once per week. They have a couple other practices, but that'll be great because, as we've seen in the past, most of the Bucs come out in droves. It's not always 100%, but like I would be shocked if Baker Mayfield's not there. I'd be shocked if Chris Godwin's not there. So you still get a lot of the big time players of the Bucs participating in OTA. So it should be great.
Exactly. Folks, we hit 14,000 subscribers thanks to you, Pewter people. You can join the masses by joining us and subscribing at Pewter Report TV. That's our YouTube channel. And Matt, tell us about the rest.
Oh, yeah. If you're not already doing so, please follow us on our social medias on X, Instagram, and Facebook at Pewter Report. And then our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. If you like the podcast we do 4 times a week, the live streams that we do in season, and plan on doing a couple more as well. And, of course, all the content we put up on our YouTube channel. Scott's Pewter Pulses have been great. We always put different stuff from interviews that we do with players and press conferences at the facility. Of course, we had some Graham Barton rookie minicamp highlights as one of our shorts that did pretty well. So all that stuff is at Pewter Report TV. And please like and subscribe as we start heading towards 15,000.
That's awesome. Appreciate you, Peter people. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock, won't we, Matt?
Yes, we will. And can't thank you guys enough again for 14,000 subscribers. We really appreciate it and couldn't do it without you. So thank you all. So until tomorrow's show, for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching. And we'll see you on Tuesday for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.